You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. Book. Where's the book? I know there's got to be a book sitting on a table here because I'm in the coffee shop. Coffee shops always have books. Let's see. Ooh, there's a book. The Nephilim virus. And the author's name is John Prather. How you doing today, John?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Did I say that right?
Yes, Nephilim. The Nephilim
virus. Oh, got it close.
Got it close. Close enough.
So, do tell about the Nephilim virus.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's a post-apocalyptic thriller, and it's about a guy who wakes up from this 3-year coma and realizes that the entire world has been infected by this virus, and this virus turns some people into these indestructible animalistic creatures, and it turns a few people into like these superhuman, super intelligent creatures who want to take over the world. So the main character, Nick, wakes from this coma, and he has to kind of learn what the origin of this virus and what it's doing to everyone. And he also has to learn why everyone is so interested in him. And he has to stay alive while doing it. So it's a thriller. It's pretty fast-paced, short chapters, short sentences. It's just go, go, go the whole time.
Well, it sounds like a fascinating read, and I happen to love thrillers. So,
yeah.
How did you research this virus?
Well, I always had the idea for this kind of blood virus that infected, 2/3 of the world, but I never quite knew what I was going to do with it. So when I started researching it, I come from a kind of exercise background. So for me, the science of how a virus would travel in the blood, how it would be plausible for it to kind of take over someone's body was fascinating. I knew some of it just from my exercise science background, and my degree in college was actually in a sports degree. It wasn't anything to do with writing. So I knew a lot of it from that. And then learning the medical side of it was just fascinating to me, but I tried not to get too much into it in the book because I wanted it to be fast-paced. So I tried to make it plausible, but also easy enough to understand that it wasn't like reading a medical textbook or anything like that. And, Google is an amazing, amazing invention because it makes research so much easier. I love libraries. I love bookstores. And I love Amazon because you can order a book about anything on Amazon and have it there tomorrow. So research for this was actually a lot of fun.
That's great. Now, you were about to say something when I said I love thrillers.
Oh, I was just going to say me too, and my wife does as well. So this book is basically for my wife because it's written in the style that she likes, just with this short chapters, short sentences, almost like the style of a teen book where you have to kind of have cliffhangers and people have to kind of get into it really quickly. And so even though it's an adult book and deals with adult language and subjects and things like that, it's written with just a very quick, almost James Patterson type of pace. So she always reminded me while I was writing it to, every chapter I'd let her read, and she'd be like, oh, that's good. It's only a couple of pages. It's only 3 pages. So thrillers, I'm a big fan of thrillers. I read tons and tons of thrillers, but I kind of wrote this one almost for my wife as an audience of one.
Well, that's great. And what a lovely tribute to your wife. Wow. So I'm guessing she's your biggest fan?
She is, and I dedicated the book to her and also to my mother, who took me to my first writing conference when I was a teenager. And so she was my wife is very supportive of my writing and my, I'll sit there and kind of be in my own world sometimes, and she can tell when I'm working on a project in my head or working on a chapter in my head. And she's very, very understanding of me waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and writing, or taking time, from her and the kid to sit and write sometimes. She's very supportive and very excited about it because she's a big fan of this book in particular. It's just her style.
Now, is this your only book that you have in print?
This is my first book I got published. I'm one of those people who I've always liked to write. I, been a writer as long as I can remember, because when I was a kid, I would just write in notebooks and always write stories. And so one of my life goals was always to write a book. And in 2013, I just decided, hey, listen, I got to stop saying I'm going to be one of these people who writes a book, but I've got to be a person who actually takes the time to write one. So I just set the goal to write a book, finish a manuscript. And I told myself it didn't matter how good or bad it was, I just had to complete it. So in 2013, I wrote a manuscript. I finished the whole thing, and it wasn't very good. And so I started a new one, but that first one really just showed me that I could do it. And then in 2014, I had the idea for this one, and I really just flew through it. I wrote it in about 4 to 5 months, and it just really kind of story spilled onto the page. So then I changed my goal. Well, wait a minute, maybe I don't just want to be someone who's finished a book, but maybe I want to get one published. So then that started the adventure of learning how the publishing system works. And so this is the first book that I've gotten published. It's not the first book I've ever finished, but it is the first I've gotten published.
So are you traditionally published?
Yes, I, considered the self-publishing. It's great and it works for a lot of people, but I just kind of figured for my first one, I didn't know a lot about the publishing process, and I love to learn and research, but I wanted to kind of link up with a publishing company that could help me out in the things I don't know, and that had to reach further than I would just self-publishing. So self-publishing is great, but it took a while to kind of learn the system, and then, lots of rejection letters and lots of radio silence from people. But it was a learning process for me, and I was eventually able to get a publisher, and that's just been a whole nother experience in itself, but one that's very rewarding.
Well, that's outstanding. And like I always say in the coffee shop, self-published, traditionally published, come one, come all.
Absolutely. I love books. I love authors. I read probably 2 to 3 books a week. I really am a big reader, which is part of my research, because I feel like reading other authors that you like. Robert Parker, I think, writes the best dialogue I've ever heard, just witty, short, clipped dialogue that is incredible. I think Lee Child has, created Jack Reacher character that's one of the best characters ever invented. And there are plenty of self-published authors that have wonderful work and amazing stories. And I think storytelling is phenomenal art, no matter what method you choose to do it. I do some acting and modeling and different things like that. So whether it's with a camera or with a pen or a typewriter or however you want to tell your stories, I just love stories. I'm a story person. So absolutely.
Well, I guess that's something we have in common, because I love stories, and I guess that's why I love doing this show, because I love nothing more than finding out about an author's story and what made them put fingers to keyboard or pen to paper and go through that. Now, before you submitted your work, did you have it edited?
I did. I worked over it so many times myself that everything just started to look the same to me. And I decided I needed to hire a professional editor because there was only so much I could work I could do on my own. So I did hire a professional editor. And the interesting thing is I had him go over it, and some of the stuff I changed that he wanted me to change. And he was well-known, pretty expensive editor. And I really got a good taste of the editing process from him, but I didn't love his vision for my book. My book is, again, pretty quick pace to it, and he wanted to slow it down. He wanted the whole book itself takes place in about a week a time period, and he wanted, in the first chapter to let a month pass during the first chapter. And for me, I took some of his advice, but some of it I didn't take. And I was like, well, I've hired him. I don't have to change everything that he says to change. And so then when I got a publisher and they hooked me up with their editor, or one of their editors, because I worked with several, but when I worked with her, I felt she got a much better idea of the vision of my story. And so I was so nervous while she had my manuscript, and I was very nervous because I was like, well, if she comes back with the same changes he had, then I have to change them because, she's with the publisher. So basically I've got to make these changes. And she came back and she didn't like it. She actually enhanced my style. And so that's the thing I think I learned as a new author was you want to find an editor that doesn't try and change your style to something else, but you want to find an editor that enhances your style and makes it more of what it is. So she actually made the pace of the book faster, and she helped me out with some sentences and things like that. And she didn't want to change any of the plot or structure at all. She just was like, hey, I love where this is going. Let's just make it even more of what it is. So for me, I did hire, a editor myself, and it was very useful and much needed experience for me. But in working with several different editors, I found that I needed to find one that saw my vision for where the book was going.
I think that's an outstanding thing, and I'm going to quote one of my favorite authors here, and that would be Brad Thor. And I read his books very regularly, and I happen to have them on audiobook. At the end of one of his audiobooks, he did an interview with the guy that brings voice to his characters, and he said, don't write what you know, write what you read.
Yes.
Because you know the pacing you like, you know the characters you like.
Yeah, that's very smart. And like I said, I love to read, and I like to pick little ideas from different authors that I really like. There's an author named Sigmund Bauer who I always enjoyed the way he just dropped a reader in, and the first chapter, something was happening. And so action was happening immediately. And then he would kind of go back and fill you in on who the character was and what was going on. But you started out already being hooked because something was already happening. And so I try and take that myself and use that little part of it, of writing. And so there's so many different things, so many phenomenal authors out there that I think it's a must for an author to read a lot so that they can kind of develop their own style from all these other amazing authors like Brad Thor.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned modeling and acting. How did that influence your writing?
I think it came in handy because as an actor, working on movies and television and things like that, you see a different style of storytelling, a very visual style of storytelling. And that helped me with my book in one way because the book is very visual, but not overly descriptive. The scene, you get in the scene and something happens and you get out of the scene and you move on to the next scene. So it's a lot like a movie where you'll have a lot happen, but it only takes a couple of minutes for it to happen, unless it's a big fight scene or something like that. In film and television, things happen very quickly, and you get to the point, and you get to the next thing, and that's how the book was written. And I think that helped me to, kind of see a lot of scripts in my life and to look over a lot of dialogue in my life and do the acting thing has really helped me kind of hone storytelling for a visual community, because a lot of people now are way more visual than they are when they read. So shorter attention spans. So I tried to translate those type of things into my book. So I feel like it really, really helped out. And then the other thing with acting is when you're an actor, you delve into character a lot, and you delve into a lot of things that are kind of going on beneath the surface of a character that you don't necessarily tell the audience outright. And I feel like that helps my writing as well, because there's so much backstory that you can express in other ways besides having a flashback and telling a backstory that slows down the story. So my book, there's not a whole lot of background or a lot of backstory, but you can definitely tell there's a lot going on underneath the surface.
That is fascinating. Now, I was thinking about how you said you didn't want your novel to be bogged down in the technical details. And that brought to mind a whole other author with a whole other style of writing. And that was Tom Clancy, The Hunt for Red October.
Oh, yeah.
You almost felt like you could drive the submarine once you finished reading his book.
Yeah, there are some authors that are actually really good at that, and they can make details so interesting, and they make you feel like you're learning something as you read, which is a phenomenal talent. And, Tom Clancy's books are so big and so detailed and still so good. And that's one of those things, too, that you kind of get little snippets from different authors that you kind of take and you're like, oh, I like he does this, or I like that he does that, or I like that she did this, or I like how she has characters talk to each other, or what have you. And that's, again, one of those things that sometimes you just sit back and you just are in awe of other authors, because you're like, I don't know how they did that and still made it interesting, but kudos to them.
Exactly. And like I said, yours sounds definitely like the antithesis of his, where he can tell you the nuts and bolts of that submarine, but you didn't want to go into the technical details of how your virus spread.
Yeah, I did. I take care of a lot of the science through dialogue, where I'll have one character who's a doctor, which is the main female, ends up being kind of the love interest of the main character. And she's a doctor, she's very smart, and she knows about all this stuff, but she's explaining things to someone who's our main character. And so I used that kind of discrepancy in, let's say, knowledge or intelligence to be able to translate it in an easy way. So I felt, I want to get this information across, but how can I get it across in a user-friendly manner? And I find that in dialogue, you can do that a lot. And again, that's something I kind of learned from the film industry, because you have to translate a lot of stuff to the audience through dialogue instead of spending paragraph after paragraph explaining things to people. So dialogue is an easy way to have one character tell another character something, and they do it in a manner that the audience can wrap their head around very easily. So I tried to do things that way. And again, that's just my style. Not right or wrong. It's just whatever kind of works for you and works for the reader.
Now, I know we're going a little bit more probably than either one of us intended into the craft of writing, but I find this fascinating. Every writer has something they have to take out of their manuscript that they just loved. It's called slaying your darlings.
Yes, absolutely.
What was your outtake?
My favorite thing, and I literally did this last night with my wife. I'm working on the second novel now, the sequel to this book. And I rushed into the room and woke her up to tell her how excited I was, because I love the last line of a chapter and I love the first line of a chapter. And last night I felt like I had come up with the best last line and the best first line of the next chapter ever, which is how an author feels generally when they come up with something and then later they look back on it and they're like, well, maybe that's not so exciting. So for me, the biggest thing is not necessarily, killing a character off or erasing a whole chapter that I really liked. To me, I like the rhythm of words and sentences. And so especially the first and last sentence of a chapter. So the biggest thing for me was cutting out a few of those that I was really in love with. And I really liked the rhythm of it. But once we changed a few things, they didn't quite fit anymore. And for me, that was very hard to let go of either a first line or a last line that I had really spent a lot of time crafting to the correct rhythm of what I wanted to sound like. And then later when we changed things, the rhythm didn't sound right anymore, but it was hard for me to let it go. So those would be my darlings, the first and last line of a chapter.
That's cool. I don't think I've ever had that answer before. So that's a new one.
Yeah, I love kind of cliffhangers or mini cliffhangers where someone has to turn the page to the next chapter, even when they don't want to. Like, hey, I got to go to bed. I got to go to work. I don't want to turn the page. But the last line just leaves them like, well, let me just peek at this next line of the next chapter. Let me peek at this first line and just see what happens real quick. And so I tried to do that a lot, where I just left a little bit of a cliffhanger. And so for me, a lot of times it's about the wording of the last line of a chapter and how that wording feels to somebody and what it connects with. So for me, that I fall in love with it and hate to kill it, but have to do it sometimes.
Wow. Now, you'd mentioned that you'd gotten a book blurb. Why don't you tell me about how you got this book blurb and who it's from?
Yes, my wife is actually, I live in Hollywood, and my wife is actually friends with Megan Fox. And so when I wrote this book, my wife was very excited about it, and she sent a copy of it to Megan. And Megan is a big reader. Most people don't know this about her. She's an actress, so she deals a lot in movies, but she also likes to read books a lot. Not a lot of fiction, though. She likes to learn and read nonfiction type of stuff. But my wife sent her a copy of the book, and she loved it. She wouldn't stop talking about it. She was so excited about it. She flew through it in about a day and a half, which is, very quick to read. And so she really, really liked it. So Megan was kind enough to write a review for our book. And so she was gushing about the book and said it would make a great movie and was filled with a fun ride of all her favorite things. So it was very nice of her, and it made me very happy that she was so excited about the book.
That's outstanding. Now, what inspired you to write, of all the genres out there, why thriller?
Thriller is just what I like the most. I wanted to write something that I would enjoy reading and that my wife would enjoy reading, really. So thrillers are the ones that I'm continually drawn to. I read a lot of different books by a lot of different authors and a lot of different genres, but I feel like thrillers are the most fun, and I wanted to write a fun book. I wanted to write something that was fast-paced, and it has themes and things like that are kind of have some deeper meaning and transfer some truths, I feel like. But I wanted to have a book that when people picked it up, they had fun and they enjoyed reading it and they had trouble putting it down. So for me, thrillers are the ones that I'm continually drawn to. So that's why I was drawn to that genre when I started writing my own story.
Have you ever acted in a thriller?
I have done television. I was on a miniseries called Project Phoenix, which was about a virus. And so it was more of a zombie type of thing, more than my book is. But I'll give away the ending of that. I died, which I've done a couple of times on television. So I have done some thriller work, and I enjoy it immensely, and I would love to do more of it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. So what advice would you give to someone who decides one day that they want to become an actor or become a writer? Either one. Pick.
I would say it's tough because I'm one of those type of people, I just packed up some clothes in the back of my truck and I'm from Tennessee, and I drove from Tennessee to California, and I had never been to California. I had no house, no job, no friends, no plan for anything, but I just felt like it was what I was supposed to do. So I've been out here 7.5 years now. So it's worked for me, but it's a very, very tough city. So I feel like if you're wanting to write or act or whatever you want to do, you want to kind of diversify and explore your different talents. If I could sing, I would do that too. I get into whatever I can do out here in the entertainment industry because it's a tough industry. And so you want to kind of pursue different areas of it. Try the acting, do a little modeling, or with me, the writing is something that I've always loved and always knew that I was going to do eventually. So my advice to someone would be, set your goal, but also be kind of flexible because everyone has a different path. It's the same thing as publishing. Some people, self-publishing is good. Some people, traditional publishing is better. Some people with acting, they find their way into it one way, or some people find their way into it another way. And for me, the modeling thing started because I was in college and a friend said, "Hey, you want to make a little extra money? I can hook you up with my agent." And so no two people have the same story of how they arrived where they are. So you kind of have to be open for, different things to happen or different ways of success, quote unquote success.
I have to ask, how does your wife feel about your modeling? Because that can be a very intense, very public profession.
Yes, it is. She's supportive of it to an extent. She loves it because, sometimes I'll have a poster on the wall or something of me, and she gets really excited about something like that. So she loves that part of it. Sometimes she's not a huge fan of the entertainment industry. And if I do, especially the acting where I'll have a scene with another female or something like that, she'll be like, "Okay, well, tell me all about it and let me know what's going on. And, I got to see it," and things like that. So she's very supportive. And, we've been married 3 years now. I've been in the industry for about 7.5. So she kind of came into it when I was already in it. And she probably would have chosen something else for me to do if she was given the choice. But by the time I met her, it was too late. So, but on the other hand, she loves the writer thing. She's like, I can be fully on board with this writer thing because you can do that at home. So it depends on what day, but she's a very, very supportive person. So we support each other in all kinds of crazy different schemes. So
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that as an actor, model / writer, You work out a lot.
Yeah, fitness, a lot of the modeling is kind of fitness modeling type of stuff for me. So I do work out a lot. My dad always worked out and he had a gym in the garage. And so growing up, I just thought that was normal. And so by the time I realized it wasn't, it was too late. I was already a workout person. So I do work out quite a bit. I do have a 1-year-old now, so that gets a lot harder. So a lot of times I'm working out 4 or 5 in the morning. So it still happens every day, but it gets a little bit tougher. But it is definitely part of the business out here in LA.
Do you ever find yourself working on scenes in your head while you're working out?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like that's when I'm the most creative. If I'm ever stuck on a scene or have a problem with my writing, the most creative I ever feel is at 5 or 6 in the morning at the gym. It's a combination of the early morning and getting the blood flowing. I'll be in the gym and I'll just have a little run up to the front desk and grab a piece of paper and a pen, or I'll pull up my phone and I'll just go to the corner and just write down something that I've been thinking of, because I feel like that is the best method for me to kind of break free in my head. And I don't know if it's it's a combination of getting the blood flowing that really helps me, or getting the body moving kind of helps my mind also start to move. But absolutely, that is my go-to move whenever I'm really stuck on something as a writer.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Now, how has your writing affected your acting?
It's, a symbiotic relationship in that I feel like it helps my acting because after I write for a while and I'm developing a character myself, then I get to step over and I get to read a character that someone else has written. And it really helps me to kind of go a little bit deeper with the character because then I look at it and I say, oh, okay, if I was writing this character, this is some things that I would need to know about it, or these are some things that I would need to explain about him, or at least have beneath the surface to know myself. And so that helps me kind of be able to wrap my head around it a little bit easier, because sometimes as an actor, you just see a script and you see the words and you kind of get stuck there. But as humans, we always have something beneath your words. You can say, I love you and mean I hate you. You can say, I'm sorry and mean I'm not sorry. So words are just a method we use to communicate, but there's so much more to communication. And so it helps me as a writer because I get to delve into those different ways of communicating and then look at a script or something as an actor with fresh eyes.
That sounds fantastic. Now, I'm going to ask you one last question, and I think we're going to take a brief commercial break. What is your favorite coffee shop treat?
Oh, man. Well, I have two go-to treats. So one is a glazed donut, which as a workouter, I don't go to a lot, but I reward myself after a shoot or something like that. And then if I'm in a coffee shop, I always got to get a croissant. I'm a croissant person. So the breads are a really big deal to me.
Love those carbs, huh?
Yeah, I do. It's tough, but I do.
I think everybody does on some level.
Right? Some people don't admit it, but everybody does.
I mean, whoever turns down a brownie or a freshly baked chocolate chip cookie? Yeah,
it's a thing. I tell you what. That's why I use them as rewards for myself, because I have to feel like, oh, I wrote a good chapter, or I went and filmed all day, so I can reward myself with it.
Well, on that note, I think I will refill your coffee mug there, John. And we will pay those radio station bills, and I will see you on the other side.
Sounds good.
Thank you for hanging in there with me while we paid those radio station bills. All right, John, I gotta ask. You said you have a 1-year-old daughter. Now, you mentioned off-air you'd adopted.
Yes. She's actually a foster daughter, so we're in the process of adopting her. It's not complete yet. But my wife and I, one of the things we had in common before we got married was we both wanted to build a family through adoption and as well as having biological children. And so we were going to adopt at some point in our relationship. So 2 months after we got married, we were like, well, let's go ahead and start taking foster classes so that we can kind of get those out of the way and then adopt later on, being completely very, very naive of the whole situation. But we wanted to get a kid that, wouldn't really have a good chance at life otherwise. We love adoption in all its forms, but we didn't really want to be picked out of a book by someone who was just going to give up their kid to someone anyway. We wanted to kind of take a kid out of a bad situation. And so naively, we went through the foster classes and got involved in that. And so 2 years later, over the process of 2 years, we ended up having a little foster son that we had for a few months, and he ended up going back to some family members, which is the hardest day of my entire life. And but a year ago, we got a little girl from the hospital, and we've had her for a year and are in the process of adopting her. Hopefully, prayers up and fingers crossed, by June, it'll be official. But she's amazing. Ball of energy, whole lot of fun. And she makes me get up really early to be able to get my writing done before she's up. So she's a motivator in that way.
Well, I was going to ask how that impacted your writing and now how does it impact the acting when you've had that long day on set and you come home to this little fireball?
She loves to smile more than any baby or human that I've ever seen. So she is a complete just ray of sunshine. So sometimes I find myself just kind of hanging out with her when I should be doing other things. I'm like, well, I got to get my writing in for the good day. I got to do that. And I'm like, well, I'll just sit here for a few more minutes because she's laughing and saying, da, 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 and I can't leave right now. So that means I have to find ways around my work, be it, acting or writing or whatever. I have to find ways around her. So a lot of times I'll get up early or I'll do it, in the morning or something like that. But I don't love sleep. I always have been the type of person who I feel if I'm asleep, something's happening that I'm not a part of, that I should be a part of. So I'm not a big sleeper. So for me, a couple of weeks ago, I was on set 4 days in a row and we had 2 night shoots on location. And so I was up till like 2 a.m. filming, and then I got home, and then after the second day of night shooting, we had morning shoots. And so I had to be back on set at like 9 a.m. But still, for me, the working out, the writing, it's a must. So I would just get up at, go to bed at 2 or 3 a.m. and then get back up at 5 or 6 and get my workout in and get some stuff done. So then I have the evening when I get home, however late that is, to hopefully hang out with her for a little while, because she resets my day correctly. Between her and my wife, it helps me forget the madness of work and writing and all these other things that I've got going on.
So is it safe to say that your wife and daughter keep you grounded?
Oh yeah, they absolutely do. Especially my wife. She's she's a lot of fun, and like I said before, we're very supportive of each other, and we're always continually. Both of us are kind of like, let's try something new type of people. We love to travel, but also she's the one that kind of keeps me grounded. I run things by her. Hey, sweetie, what about this or what about that? So absolutely. And then my daughter is the one that just keeps me entertained, because, like I said, she is a ball of energy, and if there's anyone who can beat me on the energy scale, it's her. So. We wear my wife out together.
Oh, it sounds like fun.
It is that, among other things. It's definitely fun.
Well, it's one of those things that I gotta say, hats off to you. And I always like to delve into the person behind the book, because everybody can pick up the book and read it, but what's in the mind of that author behind that book?
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from my wife and from my daughter. And my wife's actually pregnant with twins right now as well. So it's about to get as crazy as I think it is right now, it's about to get a whole lot crazier in about 4 months. So I'm enjoying just having one child, because I'm about to have 3 kids all under a year and a half. So as crazy as it is now, it's going to be even crazier. So I should have even more inspiration and motivation to write.
So are you going to have any help? Because 3 under 2 years of age is a handful.
My wife is trying to get my mother-in-law, to move out into California. She's from Wisconsin, so her family still lives there. And I have 7 brothers and sisters and my mother, but they all live back in Tennessee. So right now, we're not sure how we're going to handle it. I'm terrified. I'm very, very excited, and it'll all work out. But yeah, we'll figure that out as it goes. So hopefully we'll have some family help. Maybe my mother-in-law will come out and help out with the twins for a little bit, and with our little foster daughter. So we will see. It should be, like I said, fun one way or the other.
Do you know if they're boys, girls, one of each?
It's one of each. So we got a little boy and a little girl. So it's we're very excited about it. When we adopted, I was like, well, I want a boy first. So if we adopt, we get to choose. And so we had adopted the little boy, like I said, or fostered the little boy, in hopes of adopting him. And then he went back. And then when my daughter, we heard about her, my wife was like, well, keep an open mind. It's a girl. I know you wanted a boy first. And so once we got her, I've forgotten all about boys. So she's so amazing. I'm like, oh, boys are for losers. I don't even need a boy. But now we're going to get one of each. So I'm going to have my hands full with everything. So it'll be fun.
I can just see you sitting there at in a few years at a tea party with your daughters wearing a tiara.
I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. I would not.
Oh, I'm willing to bet your daughter has you wrapped around her little pinky.
You know what? That's my wife keeps telling me. I don't know, but you can't turn down her smile. I just tell you what, I don't think it's just me. I don't think anyone can turn down her smile. So we'll see how the other two are. But if they have half the power she has, I'm in big trouble.
Anyway, so you mentioned you do a lot of writing, a lot of acting. So you write even on those long acting days?
I try to. Occasionally when I get really busy, I kind of put my goals aside, not put them aside, but I push them to days when I have a little bit more time. So I set goals for myself for the week. I kind of look at my schedule and see what it looks like as far as filming or acting or whatever's going on, family time, etc. And so sometimes it'll just be, a 14-hour day filming, and then I'll have a few hours of sleep, and then I've got to get my workout in, and then, filming again. And so on those days, I'll write when I can. Sometimes I'll write on set in between, in the trailer, in between while they're setting up lighting and all this other kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm not able to do that because I can't kind of get myself disconnected from the acting thing and kind of get it into my writing world. Because when I do the writing, I kind of have to disappear into that world for a little while. So I do sometimes. And if I can't, then I'll be like, okay, well, on Saturday or Sunday or whatever my day off is, I'll kind of stack up my writing and get a little extra done then. So I'm a very motivated goal type of person. So I set myself a goal, but also I kind of look at how my week is laid out and adjust accordingly.
So to do your writing, do you carry a laptop with you, or do you take notes on Google Documents on your phone? How do you keep your writing with you all over the place?
I usually bring my laptop with me. The Nephilim virus, when I was writing it, I actually didn't even have a laptop. I wrote it on an iPad. So I had it with me all the time in my car, on sets, what have you. And then after I finished that one, I'm like, well, if I'm going to write more, I've got to get a laptop because this is ridiculous to be writing an entire manuscript on a iPad. But it worked. I was able to do it. I'm not sure how I was able to do it looking back, but now I keep my laptop with me most of the time so that I can write on it. And if not, I'm constantly just taking notes on my phone or what have you so that I can go later and then put it down.
What is the craziest thing you've ever had happen on set?
Oh, man. The craziest thing I ever had happen, I think one time I was on set and we were shooting downtown, and we were all these old buildings. And so we had a cross where you had to go from one building across the street to the other building. And I was standing there on one side of the street waiting for them to call action and, go into my scene. And a gigantic plate glass window that must have been like 200, 300 years old exploded in the second floor above me. And so just these shower of glass came raining down all over. And of course, everybody is completely freaked out. That's violates so many different type of safety regulations, I think. And they were all worried, when you're an actor, they're all worried that you're made of cotton candy, I guess. And so everyone comes rushing over to try and see if I'm okay, but it sounded like a gunshot. I thought someone had been shot, and this old window, I don't know if someone accidentally hit it or something with the lights up there, but it just exploded. And I've never seen so much glass and just debris come raining down. So, but on the bright side, we got done filming that day a little bit early, so it all worked out.
I'd have to say that I don't think you're made of cotton candy. I think you're made of tougher stuff than that.
Yeah, I think you got to be at a certain point when you try all the different stuff that I like to try. You either toughen up or you just you go on and do something else.
So you sound like the very adventurous type. Have you ever done what's the craziest thing you've done offset?
Offset, I think the craziest thing I've done is my wife and I really like to travel. And so last year, we went to Israel, and we went up kind of to the Golan Heights and saw Syria. And then we also, a few months later, then turned around and went to Africa. And so we went over in Ethiopia to kind of do a little bit of goodwill work in Ethiopia. So we went through the entire country of Ethiopia, stopping in these different little villages. And a lot of them had never seen any Americans before. They'd never seen any white people before. It was just the two of us with a couple of Ethiopians. So I've got some stories about that people would not even believe, but it was definitely the craziest things I've done are traveling to different places, but I love to hear other people talk and listen to other people and see other cultures. And I think that you experience so much of the world that way that you miss if you just kind of stay in one place and experience the things that you've always experienced and that your family experience. So I've got stories about being held up by shepherds with machine guns to border crossings that went sideways very quickly. So travel has given me quite a few interesting stories, and then a lot of them kind of take a different form and end up in one of my books or so. So it comes in handy.
I'll bet I can picture a lot of good inspiration from a border crossing that went sideways.
Yeah, it definitely leads me to a lot of my stuff comes out in my writing. Kind of, I don't know if it's cathartic or what, but it's a way of reliving some of the stuff, and I change obviously different things about it, but it gives me a lot of different ideas to be able to experience different things in different places.
Now, you mentioned a sequel.
Yes.
I do have to ask, is it the same set of characters, or are we going to meet a whole new cast of characters?
Well, that's a great question and a fun one, because this, the Nephilim virus, the first book, it happens in first person, and I wanted it to be like that because it kind of has a little bit of a feel of a detective novel as well, because the character wakes up and he doesn't know what happened in the last 3 years, and he kind of has to discover it, but it's also very fast-paced, so he discovers it at the pace of a thriller. The second book takes place from a different character's point of view. So it involves one of the characters and a bunch of the characters from the first book, but it just changes the point of view. And also, I'm not a big background flashback type of person, but it does reveal some of the background from the first book that tells you a little bit of what led up to the first book and how these people became who they were. And so it's been fascinating kind of writing from timeline perspectives, where part of the book happens before the first book, and then part of it happens 3 years after the first book ends. So it's fascinating, and it's also fascinating to me to write it, to have all the same characters, but write it from a different character's perspective. One of the characters that was more of a minor character in the first one becomes a major character in the second one. But you see some of the same stuff from a different perspective, which is fascinating for me to write and to be able to experience. It's been a lot of fun.
I've got to ask, the Nephilim virus, am I saying it that correctly?
The Nephilim virus.
The Nephilim virus. How did you come up with the title?
Well, the Nephilim are a race of creatures that are actually, if you Google it, it's all over the place. It's a lot of mythology around it. But it's originally from just a couple of obscure verses in Genesis in the Bible. And so it talks about how these sons of God, basically demons or fallen angels or something like that, come down and have relations with daughters of men and create this race of basically superhumans. And that's it. It's just a couple of verses, and then it doesn't talk about it anymore. And so I wanted to imagine, what about if this race was still around? How would this look? And they looked normal, but they have kind of these super human tendencies, or these super intelligent tendencies. But I wanted to do it in a kind of a Batman Begins type of way, where the world is completely normal. It's not a sci-fi type of situation. The world is completely normal. Otherwise, you just kind of drop this character into it and see what happens. But everything is plausible and explainable. So for me, it just came from that idea, and the idea of, what if these creatures were still around? What would the world look like? And I added that to kind of the virus idea, and this book emerged.
That sounds fascinating. Now, you're going to be so involved with 3 young children, a sequel coming out. I'm sitting here going, I don't see much time in the day for much of anything.
Yeah, that's where my sleep always takes the hit. I like I said, I'm not a big sleeper, so I kind of just sleep a little bit less to make up the time elsewhere. But I like to be busy. I like to be doing things, and my wife and my daughter are of the same mind, so we do a lot of things together. So that helps to kind of involve me and be able to do a bunch of different things at the same time. Get family time while I'm experiencing something that I can later write as a scene in a book.
So did you take your daughter on these trips, or did she stay home?
We actually got back from Africa, the Africa trip, and we got her a week later. So both of these last two trips happened right before her, and the last year has been really focused on writing and the book and acting. So we've kind of settled down the travel, and then I'm sure in 2018 we'll start traveling again, and we would love to bring her as much as we can, because I feel like she should have a really big world and experience a lot of things that she would be able to kind of shape her as a human being. So she hasn't yet, but she turned 1 yesterday. And so this next year is her year of adventure, I feel like.
If you could go anywhere on the planet, where would you like to go?
Well, I think the two biggest things that I wanted to do, was go to Israel and around the Middle East, and then go to Africa. I would love to go back to Africa again, because we saw Kenya and we saw Ethiopia. But there's so much more of Africa that I'd really like to go to. So I would probably have to say just traveling around more of Africa and seeing some different parts of Africa. But also I'd like to take a trip through Europe and see a lot of the different, I love old cultures, and I love, old ruins and things like that. And there's so much in Europe that I haven't seen yet, and I'd love to do that.
Sounds like fun.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Now, you mentioned your wife's the news junkie and not you. So, is there a news story that you've picked up on, just some story that just stuck with you throughout the year?
For me, it's, the election of our president. I think it's such a all-consuming thing, and I don't know that I've ever seen that happen before. And it fascinates me just from a personality and a writer's standpoint. The fact that we're so obsessed, either like him or hate him, or think he's doing a great job or a terrible job, or think he's a great person or a terrible person, and all of those things kind of happen to every president, but this one gets so much more energy and focus and news time and airtime than I've ever seen. Even presidents that weren't exactly liked, or even presidents that were liked by the majority of people. This one gets so much more attention than I've ever seen before. And to me, that's completely just fascinating that everyone is so obsessed with him. Again, either like him or kind of like the Kardashians, either like him or hate him, people are still obsessed with him. And that fascinates me.
Well, like I like to say, I guess he lives rent-free in their heads.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, you can't pay for the kind of publicity that our president got during the election and since. And some people of the mind, no, whatever it is, whereas all news is good news, or any publicity is good publicity. And he definitely gets that. So it's just fascinating for me to see.
Okay. Like I said, I am a news junkie, as we discussed off air. Is there anything you'd like to tell listeners about you that you haven't brought up yet? Some little funny fact?
Well, I don't know if this is a funny fact or not, but I've always been a huge fan of America. And as much as I travel, and I love to travel, I love to experience new places, there is nothing I love more than coming back and flying into Atlanta or LAX and seeing the welcome home and having the agent there say, welcome home. I always feel like the Pope, where I want to kiss the ground once I get off. As much as I love to be in other places, I absolutely just love America. And we have our problems like everywhere does, but we've done so much in the last 200 plus years. And America is just such a generous place and such a big-hearted place. It's amazing to me the kind of hate that America gets sometimes, but yet still everyone wants to come here. So I love America, and if anyone wants to know anything about me, and anyone knows anything about me, they definitely know that wherever people come down politically, I'm a big fan of our country and the people of our country. I absolutely love them to death.
Well, I thank you for that. Now, why don't you give out your social media contact information?
Well, it's very easy. I'm John T. Prather on just about everything. So my website is johntprather.com. On Twitter, my user handle is John T. Prather. My Instagram name is John T. Prather. And if you want to search for me on Facebook, my author page is also John T. Prather. So it's John, the letter T, and then Prather. So it's very easy.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm now going to get to do something I've been looking forward to for this whole episode. I'm going to pour myself a fresh cup of coffee and pick up a copy of this copy of John's book on the table. Yep, I'm avoiding the title. The Nephilim virus. Nephilim?
There you go.
Nephilim virus. And I'm going to settle down with a good book, and I will see you folks next time in the coffee shop.
Come in store, and you'll also get a 10-day sample of Double Wear Longwear Foundation in your perfect shade. Quantities are limited, so don't miss the Estee Lauder free gift. Now through August 23rd at Dillard's and Dillards.com.